Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha, Khanna. As if picking up a major fight with India and taking the matter to its Western allies was not bad enough, Canada has now embarrassed itself by hailing a Nazi as a war hero. Believe it or not, this happened at the seat of Canadian democracy, its parliament. Canadian lawmakers gave a standing ovation to a man introduced as a war hero after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's address in the House of Commons. Later, it was discovered that this man had served in a Nazi unit during World War II. The Speaker of Canada's House of Commons, Anthony Rota, had to apologize for recognizing 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka as a Ukrainian hero before the Canadian Parliament. Hunka served in World War II as a member of the 14th Waffen-Grenadier Division of the SS, a paramilitary organization that served alongside the German army during the World War. While expressing regret for his decision and offering quote-unquote his deepest apologies to the Jewish community, Rota, the speaker, said, "The initiative was entirely my own. The individual in question was invited by me. I wish to make clear that no one, including fellow parliamentarians and the Ukrainian delegation, was aware of my intention or my remarks before I delivered them." The Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, a prominent Jewish rights organization, has expressed its grave concern, demanding an apology. They said, "At a time of rising anti-Semitism and Holocaust distortion, it's incredibly disturbing to see Canada's parliament rise to applaud an individual who was a member of a unit in the Waffen-SS, a Nazi military branch responsible for the murder of Jews and others." The spokesperson demanded an explanation as to how Yaroslav Hunka was allowed to even enter the Canadian Parliament and then receive recognition from the Speaker of the House, including 2 standing ovations from the Canadian lawmakers. This incident has in fact sparked global outrage, not to mention caused considerable international embarrassment for Canada. And now countries like Russia too are seeking an explanation from Canada over this outrageous incident. All right, let's now bring you an update from the ongoing UN General Assembly in New York. Well, this story highlights India's growing stature on the global stage as a trusted partner and most vocal and reliable champion of the global south. At the ongoing United Nations General Assembly in New York, leaders from various countries and the United Nations itself lavished praise on India's contribution and commitment to development projects and international cooperation. At 2 events held recently in New York, many leaders from the global south and the UN came together to express their appreciation for India's partnership with the UN system. They hailed India as a voice for their aspirations and a reliable source of assistance. Jamaica, for instance, discovered during the COVID-19 pandemic that India could be relied upon, while Samoa deeply appreciated India's consistent development assistance over the years, including collaborative projects with the UN system. Bhutan described India as a stalwart of the global south, emphasizing India's unwavering support for its socio-economic development. Dominica praised India's G20 presidency and expressed eternal gratitude for India's friendship extended to small island developing states. These sentiments echoed throughout the event, with many nations highlighting India's pivotal role in the global south. India's commitment to the global south was further evident as Mauritius pointed out its inclusion as a guest country at the G20 summit. India was keen on taking the global south along in its journey to the decision-making table. St. Lucia acknowledged India's decades-long championing of the global south, lauding Delhi as a trustworthy and dependable leader. Guyana highlighted India's continuous efforts to uplift the global south at every stage of its development. India has offered tools and support to bring the global south to the forefront. The UN General Assembly President himself recognized India's unparalleled role in the mission for a better world. He described India's G20 presidency as a historic milestone symbolizing solidarity across the global south. When asked what constituted the global south, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said it was a very Indian thing. There's a shared sense of history among the countries, a majority of which have been colonized in the past. Most are geographically and physically in the south, though not all countries of the south are a part of this bloc, and it depicts a certain mindset, a certain solidarity, a certain community. If you're a part of the global south, you know it, said Dr. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister. These events in New York have shed light on India's significant role in championing the Global South's causes, addressing issues such as sustainable development, climate financing and food and fuel crises. India's partnership with the UN system and its commitment to development projects have been widely praised. As the global community calls for reform in global multilateral institutions, India remains a trusted collaborator and leader for the most vulnerable nations in the international system. All right, our next story is from India's neighbor, Pakistan. It is no secret that Pakistan's economy has been reeling under an unprecedented crisis, the worst in the country's history, in fact. And now the World Bank has issued a stark warning that Pakistan is teetering on the edge of a precipice. The situation is so dire that 40% of Pakistanis now live under the poverty line. Yes, this is data that's been put out by the World Bank. And the bank has warned that Pakistan needs to make some critical decisions about its economic future as the country stands at a crossroads where it must choose between perpetuating poverty and inequality on the one hand and taking bold initiatives towards a brighter future on the other. The World Bank has expressed its criticism of Pakistan's political class and the military, saying the country is in desperate straits as policy decisions are heavily influenced by vested interests in the military, political and business sectors. The World Bank has said Pakistan is also facing a silent human capital crisis, abnormally high child stunting rates, low learning outcomes and high child mortality. They've said Pakistan's economic model is no longer reducing poverty, and it's very concerning that poverty reduction successes until 2018 have been reversed since. According to the World Bank, Pakistan's poverty rate for the middle income line of $3.2 a day had declined to 34.3% by 2018 from 73.5% 2 decades earlier, but has since gone up to 39.4%. According to the bank estimates, over 12.5 million people have additionally fallen below the poverty line measures by $3.65 per day. Pakistan's average real per capita growth rate between 2000 and 2020 was just 1.7%, less than half of the average of South Asian countries. Its growth model has resulted in periodic balance of payments crises, and as a result, Pakistan's per capita incomes have fallen behind most other South Asian countries. Pakistan's human development outcomes are lagging as well, especially in areas like child stunting rates and education. The country has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world, with girls and women bearing a disproportionate burden. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Global Lens. If you have been, thanks so much for watching. Do join us again at the same time tomorrow. Good night.